Hi everyone. Good morning. Um, I I am Samanta Alves. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys one more time. I'm really happy to be here with you. It's the starting of 2022, so it's one more year um, that we are here in the Spiritual Society of Ireland working um, virtually. Let's see until when, but virtually from now. Um, so, just before I start our talk today, I wanted to confirm that you guys can hear me and everything is okay. It seems so. Hi, Kaka. Good morning. Um, so, if you guys can just let me know if it's working, just want to make sure everything is fine before I start. I'm just checking my phone here as well. It seems like all is working well, but if you guys can just give me a thumbs up. Okay, cool. So it's all good. Um, so let's start our talk. Thank you so much, Stephen. Thanks, Kaka, for letting me know. Thanks, Marcia. So let's start our talk. As I said, my name is Samanta Alves. I'm a volunteer in the Spirit Society of Ireland, and I'm also part of the Irish Spiritist Federation. I'm Brazilian, but I'm currently living in Dublin, Ireland, and I'm broadcasting today from Dublin, Ireland. Today we are going to talk about Jesus, the divine being. And the reason why I chose to talk about this now is because we usually think of Jesus more strongly at Christmas time, which seems like a long time ago now. Um, but he was so important for us that we should remember him always. And as we start a new year, let's remember who was him and at least a little bit of his teachings so we can be inspired to apply them in every day of our lives. But first things first, let's do our initial prayer before we start. And you can close your eyes if you want, but if you don't want, that's fine too. Just take a deep breath. Let's connect with the spiritual friends, with Jesus, with God. Let's ask them for inspiration this morning. Ask them for guidance. Let's also thank them for the opportunity to be here, not only on earth learning and living, but also in this specific talk. Let's thank for the opportunity of being working in this um, in the Spiritual Society of Ireland, but in everything related to Spiritism and everything that we can learn from it, so we can improve our lives, not only here on earth, but also in the spiritual realm as well. Let's thank for all the the things that happens in our lives, all the things that we can enjoy, being it material or not, all the friends, the family, the people that are surrounding us, all the relationships that we have, that we construct, all our good friends that help us so much during our way here on earth. So be it. Okay, so Jesus already existed before the formation of this world, as reported in the first letter of Peter in the Bible that says, "He was known before the foundation of the world, but he was manifested at the end of times because of you." It's in Peter chapter 1, verse 20. Jesus himself said, "I assure you, before Abraham was, I am." It's in John chapter 8, verse 58. And in the book On the Way to the Light, written by Spirit Emmanuel and psychographed by Chico Xavier, in the introduction, Emmanuel says, "He is the light of the beginning, and in his merciful hands rest the destinies of the world." Also, in the book The Comforter by Spirit Emmanuel, psychographed by Chico Xavier, item 283 of chapter 2, named Gospel, Emmanuel explains that when talking about Jesus, first, we need to understand that Jesus was not a philosopher and cannot be classified among properly human values. We should take into account the divine values of his spiritual hierarchy. Sent by God, um, he was the representation of the Father among the flock of lost children who are away from God's love and wisdom, and whose guardianship was entrusted to him. Guardianship that, as angelic director of the orb, his heart accepted. According to Allan Kardec in the book Posthumous Works, chapter 7, Predictions of the Prophets Concerning Jesus, page 125, the coming of Jesus was announced by the prophets in several passages of the Bible. And so he cites some of these passages that I'm going to read here as well. So in Isaiah chapter 7, verse 4, it is because the Lord himself will give you a sign. A virgin will become pregnant, and she will bear a son that will be called Emmanuel. Also in Zechariah chapter 9, verse 9, exult for happiness, daughter of Zion. Cry out for joy, daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy king cometh to thee, just and victorious. He is simple and comes riding on a donkey, on the coat of a donkey. Also in Micah chapter 5, verse 4, we see, and he shall stand and rule by the strength of the Eternal One, and with the magnificence of the name of the Eternal One. He is God, and they will make peace. And now he will be glorified to the ends of the earth, and he will make peace. The truth, however, is that Jesus coming into the world was absolutely not understood by the Jewish people. The priests did not expect the Redeemer to look for the darkness or the darkest hour of the night to appear on the earth landscape. According to their conception, the Lord was to arrive in the magnificent chariot of his divine glories, brought from heaven to earth by the legends of his thrones and angels. He was to humiliate all the kings of the world, giving Israel the supreme authority over all the peoples of the planet. He was to work all wonders, overshadowing the glory of the Caesars or the Caesars. And yet Christ had arisen among the humble beasts of the manger. He presented himself as the son of a carpenter, and in the fulfillment of his glorious mission of love and humility, he protected prostitutes, mingled with the poor, the humiliated, visited suspicious houses to uproot their helpers and followers. His favorite companions were the ignorant and humble fishermen, of whom he made beloved apostles. And again, in the book On the Way to the Light, written by Spirit Emmanuel and psychographed by Chico Xavier, chapter 7, Emmanuel explains that abandoning the examples of the law, he was often found along the Tiberias, on which, in its banks, he preached brotherhood and love, wisdom and humility to the simple. Judaism, saturated with pride, could not understand the action of the heavenly emissary. Despite the fervent and sincere belief, Israel did not know that all salvation must begin in the depths of each one and fulfilling the prophecies of their own children. They led the divine being Jesus to the martyrdom of the cross. Now, is Jesus' divinity proven by his own words? Jesus said, I did not speak in any way about myself, but about my Father who sent me, prescribed to me by his power what I must say and how I must speak. And I know that his power is eternal life. What I say, therefore, I say according to what my Father has commanded me. It's in John chapter 12, verse 49 and 50. And also, my doctrine is not my doctrine, but the doctrine of him who sent me. It's in John chapter 7, verse 16. And I came down from heaven not to do my will, but to do the will of him who sent me. In John 6, chapter 6, verse 38. So not only did Jesus not under any circumstances give himself on an equal footing with God, but he positively affirms the opposite. He considers himself inferior to God in goodness. Now, to declare that God is above him by power and moral qualities is to say that he is not God, as explained in the Possum's work by Allan Kardec in chapter 3. So there's a chapter called Is the Divinity of Jesus Proven by His Words? And Jesus, having received the word directly from God with the mission of revealing it to men, he assimilated it. The divine word with which he was penetrated became incarnate in him. He brought these words with him at birth, and John was rightly able to say, and the Word was made flesh, and dwelt among us, and we saw his glory, which the only Son was to receive from the Father. And he, I say, dwelt among us, full of grace and truth. It's in John chapter 1, verse 14. Indeed, the Word is God because it is the Word of God. So Jesus was the divine Messiah for the double reason that he had his mission from God and that his perfections placed him in a direct relationship with God. In the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec, question 624, Allan Kardec asks the spirits, what are the characteristics of true prophets? True prophets are moral individuals inspired by God and whom we may recognize by their words and deeds. God does not employ a liar to teach the truth. Also, in question 625, Allan Kardec asks, what is the perfect standard that God has offered to humankind as a guide and model? And the answer from the spirits was, look at Jesus. Jesus is the highest standard of moral perfection to which humankind may aspire on earth. God offers him as the most perfect model, and the doctrine he taught is the purest expression of God's law because he was animated by the divine spirit and was the purest being that has ever walked the earth. If some of those who claim to teach God's laws to humans have sometimes led them astray with erroneous principles, it is because they allowed themselves to be dominated by strong earthly sentiments, and because they confused the laws regulating the conditions of the life of the soul with those regulating the life of the body. Many of them presented as divine laws what were really only human laws, created to serve their own passions and to dominate others. So, as a man, Jesus had the organization and shape of carnal beings. However, as a pure spirit, detached from matter, we see that he would have lived more in the spiritual life than in corporeal life, from which the weaknesses he was not subject to. His superiority in relation to men did not derive from the particular qualities of his body, but from those of his spirit, which absolutely dominated matter, and that of his perispirit, as we see in the Genesis by Allan Kardec in chapter 14, item 9. So his soul was probably not tied to his body, except by the strictly indispensable ties. Constantly detached, it certainly gave him a double view, not only permanent but exceptionally penetrating and far superior to what ordinary men possess. The same would apply in him to all phenomena that depend on perispiritual physic fluids. The quality of these fluids gave him immense magnetic force, supported by the incessant desire to do good. In the cures he operated, did he act as a medium? Can he be considered a powerful healing medium? And in the Spiritism literature, we see that no, because the medium is an intermediary, an instrument used by disembodied spirits, and Christ did not need assistance, since he was the one who assisted others. He acted by himself in virtue of his own personal power, as in certain cases incarnates can do, according to their strength. What spirit mover would dare to infuse him with its own thoughts and charge him with transmitting them? If any strange influx received, that only of God could come to him. According to the definition given by a spirit, he was a medium of God, as we can also see in the Genesis by Allan Kardec in chapter 15, item 2. And in Matthew chapter 10, verse 8, Jesus recommended to his disciples, heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out demons. Of all the faculties that Jesus revealed, none can be said to be strange to the conditions of humanity, and that are not commonly found in men, because they are all in the order of nature. Due to the superiority, however, of his moral essence and fluidic qualities, those faculties reached in him proportions far above those that are common. And we find this reference in the Genesis as well in chapter 15, item 44. The greatest miracle that Jesus worked, which truly attests to his superiority, was the revolution that his teachings produced in the world, despite the scarcity of his means of action. In fact, Jesus, poor, born in the humblest condition, in the bosom of a tiny people, almost ignored and without political, artistic, or literary preponderance, preaches his doctrine for just 3 years. In all this short time, he is neglected and persecuted by his fellow citizens, he is forced to flee in order not to be stoned, is betrayed by one of his apostles, Judas. He is disowned by another, Peter. He was abandoned by everyone the moment he falls into the hands of his enemies. He did nothing but good, and that did not put him under the protection of malevolence, which from the very services he rendered drew reasons to accuse him. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, the introduction about Pharisees, it says, Jesus, who cherished above all simplicity and the qualities of the soul, that preferred the spirit which vivifies rather than the letter which kills, applied himself throughout his mission to unmasking the hypocrisy of the Pharisees for what he had bitter enemies in them. Also, in the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 1, item 3 and 4, Allan Kardec answers the question, what was Jesus' mission? And he explains that Jesus did not come to destroy the law, that is, the law of God. He came to fulfill it, that is, develop it, give it its true meaning, and adapt it to the degree of advancement of man. He came to teach men that true life is not on earth, but in the kingdom of heaven. Teach them the path that leads there, the means of reconciling themselves with God, and warn them about the march of future things towards the fulfillment of human destinies. However, he did not say everything, and on many points he limited himself to depositing the germ of truth that he himself declares cannot yet be understood. And the most important part of Christian's revelation is the sense that it is the primary source, the cornerstone of all his doctrine, is the whole new point of view under which he made the divinity be considered. The divinity is no longer the terrible, jealous, vengeful God of Moses, but a gracious God, sovereignly just and good, full of patience and mercy, which forgives the repentant sinner and gives to each according to his work or his works. Um, and also in the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 11, item 4, Allan Kardec shows that Jesus said to love our neighbor as oneself, to do for others what we would want others to do for us. In the most complete expression of charity and kindness, because it sums up all the duties of man towards his neighbor. Therefore, with Jesus, the men of the world receive the perfect code of love. And in the book The Comforter by Spirit Emmanuel, psychographed by Chico Xavier, item 225 of chapter 4, named Work, Emmanuel explains that considering this real aspect of the soul salvation problem, we are compelled to recognize that if divine providence has mobilized all the resources indispensable to the material progress of physical men on earth, the gospel of Jesus is heaven's supreme gift for redemption of the spiritual man on the march towards universal love and wisdom. Jesus is the supreme model. The gospel is the script for the ascension of all spirits in struggle, learning on earth about the higher plans of the unlimited. From its application comes the light of the Spirit. In the turmoil of daily tasks, remember the Lord's affirmation, I am the way, the truth, and the life. If the temptations of authority and power, of fortune and intelligence surround you, still remember his words, no one can go to the Father except through me. And if you feel touched by the cold breath of adversity and pain, if you are overloaded with work in the world, seek always to hear him in the essence of the soul. Whoever desires to find the kingdom of God, let them take their cross and follow my footsteps. Also, in item 243 of the same book, we see that all spiritual entities incarnated in the terrestrial orb are spirits that rescue themselves or learn through human experiences after the falls of the past, except for Jesus Christ. foundation of all truth in this world, whose revolution was verified in a straight line to God, and in whose angelic hands rests the spiritual government of the planet since its beginnings. Calvary represented the crowning of the Lord's work, but the sacrifice in his example was verified in all the days of his passage through the planet. And the Christian must seek above all the model in the examples of the Master, because Christ taught with love and humility the secret of spiritual happiness, being essential that we, his disciples, build these virtues inwardly, with which we will know how to demonstrate through our own Calvary of our own pains at the opportune moment. So that was all from me today. It won't be a long talk. I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about Jesus as we start the year, because we can do so much this year, and in I think, in my own opinion, and you guys may agree with me, we shouldn't think about him or his teachings only at Christmas time. We should try and remember all of those things every day, basically, so we can use them um, and try and follow his teachings and become a little bit better, so we can improve and one day perhaps be so perfect as him. So I don't see any questions here in the chat. So just before we finish, I wanted to say that, as we customarily do, I just would like to say that if you need to talk to somebody, there is the yourmentalhealth.ie website, and you can find a lot of information there. You'll find advice on how to mind your mental health, especially during these unprecedented times and difficult times that we are living. If you are in Ireland, you can text YMH to the number 08618000280. There's also the Irish Council for Psychotherapy website, which is psychotherapycouncil.ie. There is the Samaritans, which is samaritans.org. And the email of the Samaritans is jo@samaritans.org. If you want to send an email, perhaps you don't want to talk over the phone, so you can use the service. And there's also a texting service here in Ireland. You can text 50808, and you can talk by texting, which is can be good, can be handy for people that don't want to talk, or perhaps, like, there could be many reasons why they don't want to talk, but then they can write. The bibliography of today was the Gospel According to Spiritism, the Spirit's Book, The Genesis of and Posthumous Works by Allan Kardec. Also, On the Way to the Light, in the introduction, written by Spirit Emmanuel and psychographed by Chico Xavier. The Comforter, as well, by Spirit Emmanuel, and also psychographed by Chico Xavier, and the Bible. So, as you noticed, I cited a lot of parts from the Bible. And I just wanted to finish with our activities. We have our public meetings in the form of lives for now every Sunday from 11:15 to around 12:15. And it could be 11:45. It depends. Today will be a shorter one, but we usually go from 30 minutes to 1 hour. We also have our talk shows in the form of lives for now every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:15 p.m. We have our study groups every Wednesday from 8 to 9. So if you want to participate in these study groups, just send us an email on our website, or send us a message through Facebook, and we can add you to the group and give you all the instructions to participate, because we do that one via Zoom. It's not via YouTube or Facebook. So we, if you want to participate, just let us know. We'll send you all the instructions. Um, we also have our healing sessions every Tuesday. This is new. We started probably a month ago, and it's every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. on YouTube. If I am not mistaken, we also broadcast this on Facebook. It's a very short session. It's just a session so we can um, kind of raise our thoughts to Jesus, increase our vibration, and send good vibrations to people in need, and to everyone in general. So if you have someone in mind, it could be incarnated or discarnated, that you want us to send vibrations to. Um, we have, if you go to our page, or if you go to our Facebook page, you can be directed to our website, and you see that we have a form there that you can fill out. It's very simple, just a name. Um, but then we can send vibrations specifically to this um, to this individual. Um, so our Facebook page, you probably know, it's Spiritist Society of Ireland, and our email is spiritismireland@gmail.com. If you want to send us an email, um, just this is the email, spiritismireland@gmail.com. But if you go to our Facebook page, you can find all of this information there as well. So I think that's it. Guys, let's do our final prayer before we finish. Let's raise our thoughts to Jesus, to God, to our friends, to our spiritual friends. Let's thank them for this morning. Let's thank them for everything that they they help us with, for their companionship as well, because they never let us alone, for everything that they teach us, or they try to inspire us so we can learn, for all the opportunities to improve that we have, and for their kindness, especially Jesus, that was so kind to us, and that taught us so much. Let's thank him for all he did for us, for being such a good example for us to follow. And let's hope and have this in our hearts, that we want to follow his steps and learn every single day from him. So be it. Okay, so that was all. Thank you so much, guys. And I'll see you next time. Have a great Sunday. Bye.